Your cells have been living in nature for millions of years. So where do you think your genes have adapted to? This room in Kent or the deserts and the savannas? Every human has the capability, but they're so busy being busy and the body's so busy being inflamed that they're constantly in survival mode. Is it really about how many more years? I don't think so. For me, redefining longevity is being the best version of yourself now. You know, the old days people just used to cook with their hands and you ate. You have to be intuitive and not medicalize. Who is more fulfilled? Ask yourself that question. The man who's worried about how he's going to take his 1,000 supplements, or the guy says, there's no rain, I've got fire, I'm warm, I can sleep tonight like a baby.
Welcome to the Visionary podcast, where we discuss science, medicine, physical health, and mental well-being. Dr. Ash Kapoor, you spent over 30 years as a general practitioner in the NHS before founding Levitas 1. What did you see during those 30 years in the NHS that made you realize that something fundamental needed to be changed?
Thank you, and thank you for inviting me today. I'm still part of the NHS. I've grown up in the NHS and I've loved what I've done there. My original career was in hospital medicine, so I'd rotated across all the specialities for a few years and then entered general practice, mainly because I enjoyed the variety of what was coming in. But I also say in hospital medicine, you become a specialist, you only see one thing. And I always felt humans are not just one thing, they're all. So you can't separate the brain from the heart to the kidney. And so I thought, well, where else am I going to find this? And general practice seemed to be the best place, where you don't know what's coming through the door. There's a multiple of different patients in the waiting room of different ages, different genders, different problems. And I felt well suited there. And I was fortunate enough to be a partner very early in my practice, of which I'm still the partner. I'm the senior partner of the same practice. And I got to form relationships with families, individuals. And over time, you get to realize that the narrative of medicine is beyond the science. It's beyond the intelligence. It's about people in their communities, the context of what's happened to them and what is going to happen to them. And I would call that holistic medicine. As time progressed, the pressures from the intelligent world became harder. So pathways were being brought down, the computers were telling you what to do. And I have to say that I don't think it led to a better medical outcome. It may have led to better paper outcomes and audit outcomes, but not necessarily healing outcomes. So I thought, well, maybe it's because we've got less time. So I started doing private practice where I had 30 or 40 minutes with a patient, not just 10. And it was a bit more enjoyable. I could be more of a diagnostician. And having done more of that, I thought, well, maybe private practice is where I'll be happy, where I don't have to be a robot. I can be a proper doctor. So I transferred to a little bit of private practice. And then when I was doing general practice privately, it was better, but it actually wasn't different. What was going on is that you were spending more time with the patient, which made it easier for me. I got extracted more information for the patient, and the patient was more relaxed. Yeah. But all I was doing was simply being a faster lane on the M25. In other words, they got to see their consultant quicker, or they got a test quicker, they got a better cup of coffee, a better environment, but they're still going around the same circle. And therefore,
the same circle of
NHS. The treatment. Yeah. So
okay.
This NHS could be the slow lane. You get there eventually. The middle lane could be the district hospital, and the fast lane is private practice. But if you look from above, the cars are still going to end up in the same place.
It's all conventional medicine.
It's all conventional. And usually you would think that in private practice, you could start looking beyond what I call population-based data, which is what the NHS has to be about, and any healthcare economy has to be about, how you can serve a population. But you're not a population. You're an individual with your own signature. So the data that you derive from looking at 1,000 people may not apply to you. And it may not apply to your lifestyle. It may not apply to your upbringing. So clearly, when you have to offer a state-based service, you have to look at populations.
But at scale.
Yeah, exactly. Whereas humans are not at scale. So I just thought then, well, at private practice, you had the opportunity to do personalized medicine. But actually what was going on, it was the same guidelines applied quicker. And that's what was frustrating, that you, as private practitioners, you had the opportunity to look at evidence-based medicine that's more newer, more individual. And so hence, 10 years ago, I continued with the NHS, but started a private practice with a view to looking at root cause analysis. In other words, the real cause of why people are ill. And that's what today is called longevity. Then it was called root cause analysis.
Yes, yeah. You talk about breaking free from symptom chasing and instead focusing on the root cause. We think of aging as an unavoidable process. Is it?
So, what is aging? Aging is declining cells. If you think about it, you are made of trillions of cells. These cells come together to make tissues. Those tissues come together to make organs. And essentially, if you look at it, surely where is the problem occurring that these organs decline? It has to be the cell. So if you can mitigate against cellular decline, you can mitigate against the aging organ. Very simple. It's common sense. It's science. If you start producing toxins towards that cell, or you don't feed it properly, surely the outcome's going to be not so good. You know, if you were in a kitchen and you were making a meal and there were a few ingredients missing, or the temperature of the oven wasn't right, the outcome's going to be poor. But if you keep that kitchen clean and ambient and keep the chef happy, that kitchen will continue to make good cells. So you have enough stem cells for many hundreds of years. These are baby cells waiting to become your heart and your liver. So why do we decline at 70, 80, 90? It's because the mechanisms around that cell are broken. So for me, we mustn't look at aging as an inevitable. What we should look at is good aging. We're all going to have more years on Earth. The question is, those years must be purposeful, full of fulfillment, and independent. So for me, that is what I call good aging.
Yeah, I do like the idea of human optimization.
Yes,
I love it a lot. For those of us who rely on conventional medicine, what does it cost us in terms of time, quality of life, and potentially disease progression?
So I think we need to use the word convention in context of how long we've been doing medicine as the human form. We have to go back to the Egyptian empires, the Chinese, the Taoists, the Buddhists, the Native Americans. Medicine has been practiced for hundreds of thousands of years in one form or another. Nobody wants to feel pain or feel ill. And in those days, we found our solutions through wisdom. We spoke to our elders. We looked at the nature for solutions. And of course, we come from nature. So by definition, that's where most of the solutions sit. Your cells have been in this beautiful environment that we're sitting in today for maybe 200, 300 years. Your cells have been living in nature for millions of years. So where do you think your genes have adapted to? This room in Kent, or the deserts and the savannas? It's the deserts and the savannas.
Yeah.
So by definition, your cells, by the minute you're born, are in a state of distress. You don't know it, but this is a distressing environment to your cells because they have grown up in nature. So logic, therefore, says convention. What is convention? You ask a question about how it arises and how it helps or benefits or doesn't. Well, it's only been around 100 years, and it's looking at your symptom, a signal, eczema, pain, fever. And what we think is by suppressing that symptom, we cure the patient. If I give you a blood pressure tablet, your blood pressure is controlled, you think that's okay. If I give you something for your headache, you think that's okay. But actually, remember, that's the organ protesting. Tens of years before that, your cell was protesting, and we never listened to that cell, and now the organ's protesting. So conventional medicine has been successful in many good ways. If you break a leg, A&E will be able to fix it beautifully. Communicable diseases, sepsis, brilliant. But where is our big problems today? Chronic disease, cellular decline, where we are not living our optimal life. And a lot of these people don't want to live. You speak to 70, 80-year-olds in care homes, nursing homes, they sign DNR reforms saying, if I have an arrest, please don't resuscitate me. So what have we achieved? We've bought added years, but not life. So life is, for me, longevity is about life. And what is life? Purposeful, independent, and in pursuit of fulfillment. So convention has been good, but actually it has taken away agency of our own health. It's taken your own intuition away, because as soon as you get a headache, you'll see a doctor or take a Panadol or take a supplement. No, we need to listen to this sign of awareness. The human form was so aware in the past that it could tell what was going on 3 or 4 days before it was going to happen.
Yeah, so symptoms are not symptoms, they are signals.
They are signals.
Of something else.
Yes, absolutely. Signals from the body saying, help me out here.
Okay, so how would you in your clinic discover the root cause of illness or disease? Could you perhaps walk us through a typical diagnostic visit in your clinic?
So first of all, it's very easy. Very easy. There are 2 principles I apply. One is, where is the production line of your cells? The production line is near your DNA or your genes. That's the cookbook almost. In your kitchen, you'll have a hard copy cookbook. Your hard copy cookbook in your body is your DNA and your genes. It'll never change. That's why it's hard copy. Now, just having a cookbook doesn't mean you're going to be able to cook. You need a chef, you need an oven, you need a kitchen. That space, we call it the epigenetic space, the environment around your gene. So many of us think, I've got a bad gene, therefore this is going to happen. Not true. If you modify your epigenetic space, i.e. where the chef is making his food, you can switch off that bad gene. An example, I'll use the cook analogy because it's easier. If there's a gene that was required to make broccoli and wasn't working, and the chef looked at the instruction manual and said, that meal needs broccoli, a cook who was immature or not well educated or didn't have the right kitchen would say, bad luck, I can't make this dish.
Because you don't have broccoli.
Don't have broccoli. But one thing we discovered in epigenetics, the genes talk to each other. There's a gene higher up telling the other one, and except they talk. It's called intercellular communication. Okay. Now, if that space is clean and that pathway is working, a guy higher up says, you know what, chef? I know him. You can get away with carrots with him and he'll be okay. The chef says, thank you for that information. I'll now switch the broccoli off and I'll work with carrots.
Is this the DNA pathway support that you...
It's the epigenetic space which is able to modify the DNA pathway. So genes are not your destiny for illness. Epigenes are. This is why evolution happens. Otherwise, bad genes will continue forever. But you can modify bad genes. You can switch bad genes on. The body is so clever. Why does it not happen? If those pathways of communication between the genes break down, that higher gene cannot talk to that lower gene, and you're in trouble. They go rogue.
Hi, I'm Hala, your host today. If you're enjoying what you see, please hit that lovely subscribe button. It will mean a lot to us. Or maybe a small podcast now, but with your support, we can build this channel together, one step at a time. Thank you so much for being part of it. What kind of therapy, just to simplify things, talk to me like I'm in primary school, what kind of therapy that you would implement to allow the genes to talk to each other?
So first of all, look upon it as what you need to do there. You have to feed it. Everything needs energy. So
the genes or the DNA?
The epigenetic space where the cell is made.
Okay.
So energy's got to be correct. And there's only one energy currency that matters in your body. It's called ATP.
ATP.
Yeah, it's adenosine trinucleotide phosphatase, and it's made by your mitochondria, the battery. ATP is the currency of energy that makes your cells breathe. Without this, your cells cannot breathe. Okay, so you have to make sure that your mitochondrial energy is good. And then there's a whole process as to why it may not be good, which we'll talk about. So that is the feeding of the cell, the energy. The second is protecting that cell. If you have a kitchen cluttered with rubbish and bin bags and things, no one can see anything. So you have to detoxify that space. And what are these toxins? Well, these toxins are heavy metals, they're radiation, they're blue light, they're stress. All of these create a distress signal in that space called inflammation. And inflammation then breaks down the pathways, puts a little pothole in the kitchen. The fridge doesn't work. So by protecting that defense mechanism and feeding, you can do that. So then you ask in the clinic, what does that really mean?
Yes.
So what it means is this. We have to now establish food is no longer nutrition. Okay? You get everything you want today. You can go and have any meal within 10 minutes. Delivery will deliver it to you. Okay? It's full of what I call food. It'll fill you up with calories, but is it got the nutrition needed? The micronutrition that you would get from a fresh tree or a fresh kill in the jungle. That was real food. So the amino acids, the micronutrients, the density of nutrients that are in plants that have not been hormonally manipulated, the water that comes from the sky that has not been chemically polluted. These are the toxins in the food you're putting in yourself in today's modern world. Did not exist 1,000 years ago. So ultimately, our space there is toxic and we're not feeding it properly. So by definition, we're declining at 70, 80, where we should be living till 120. And more importantly, we accept this. Not only do we accept it, we approve it. Tell me which teenager doesn't want to live in the center of London, with the bright lights and things. But what have you got? Mold. You've got pollution, mercury, lead, aluminium. You've got noise. You've got a lot of receptive stuff that is totally making your cells distressed. Yes? Yeah. Schools, exams, harder schools, harder exams, bigger jobs. We not only don't realize that this is bad for you, we reward it, we clap them, we give them material wealth. And what do? We create a cycle of internal depletion. You take all your energy from within to outside. And then what happens? Well, the body starts getting distressed. You start not sleeping properly. You start craving carb. You get a bit irritable. You get a little bit distant. You become slightly, angry in your thought processes, less reflective. And then what happens? You start getting gut disorders. Your gut's starting to scream at you saying bloating, wind, tenderness. Then you get dermatitis and rashes. The body's expressing its inflammation through the skin. But no, we put creams on. We get headaches. We take sleeping tablets. And then you decline, your mitochondria decline. You steal from your immune energy. Your body won't let you down. A car without petrol will stop. Once the ATP drops, the brain says, we're in trouble here. Immune system, you go and help. The immune system looks at the brain and says, this is not my job. He goes, well, we have no choice. You've got to go and help. So people's T-cell responses drop when they're stressed, which is why you get glandular fever, chronic viral infections, because your T-cell has been used to keep you going. Then it doesn't stop. It steals your hormones. So in women, it steals something called DHEA, the mother hormone. DHEA is stolen by the adrenal gland to feed it, but its downstream effect is to make testosterone. It also steals another very valuable hormone in women called progesterone. Progesterone is stolen, and there's got to be a proper ratio between estrogen and progesterone. And if progesterone drops, you become what they call estrogen dominant. And estrogen dominance causes breast cancer. Yeah. It causes breast tenderness. Loss of progesterone causes infertility, PCOS, endometriosis. So we see a gynecologist, you have a diagnosis. It's not true. You have hormonal imbalance due to adrenal stress. Then it doesn't stop. You go into cortisol mode. So initially you go into adrenal stress, where you're wired in your brain, but tired in your body. And then you flatline and get adrenal fatigue. And then what happens? You get autoimmune diseases. Your body's not built to hurt you, but it's got roadblocks. It's got holes in the highways. So you get autoimmune dysfunctions, thyroid, psoriasis, lupus, rheumatoid. It goes on and on.
I have 3 of them.
Well, you only have one process that's expressing in three ways. Do you see the difference? It comes from the same place. So this is the thing. And often you speak to endocrinologists and say, that's linked to that and that's linked to... No, you didn't sort the first one out. Just gave a bit of steroid or immunosuppressant or biologic and you think the problem's over. It isn't. What you've done is made a roadblock, not clean up and fill it. So we now are seeing autoimmunity in children. Why? Right? Because we're stressing them in utero, So we have created this environment of abundance that the world is aspiring to, but actually our cells still want to be in nature doing nothing unless there's a saber-tooth tiger running after you, finding food, water, shelter. Today, you have many saber-tooth tigers in your life every single day. Doing this podcast, going off to do another deadline, this, that. These are little tigers. Your sympathetic nerve. Where is your vagus nerve, your rest and digest? It's paralyzed.
Out of the window.
It is. And we love it, don't we? We create dopamine from this. But actually, we are in decline without realizing it. So for me, when I speak to my patients, I explain to them that we can help you with your heavy metals, we can detox your gut, we can detox your liver, but you have to now redefine success in your mind if you really want to be joyful and fulfilled. And that's very difficult in the early stages. But later it happens, I promise you, because once you fill the body with the right energy, the brain will let go and you suddenly find decision-making changes.
I understood now that the right energy is the energy of peace and balance. But I'm trying to wrap my head around this, let's say, philosophy of life. How, and you talked about the blue zones in, I think it was in your LinkedIn page, Sardinia and Okinawa, those people who live to the age of 100. But how can we translate this way of life for someone who lives in hectic, polluted London, having breakfast and dinner on the tube and microwaved lunch kind of thing? And you talked about children and exams. I'm always studying, me and my child, for the 11 plus now. I know what this means. But I want her to achieve. I want her to do something good. And another question, how would I distinguish from healthy challenges and stressors in life? I mean, I would like to get a realistic formula of how can I live in peace, protect my nervous system, my mitochondria, but at the same time catch up with life. And
so this is really easy. The thing is, you have to do it. You've heard of Maslow's hierarchy.
Yes.
You have to get out of survival mode before you go into growth mode. Okay. And your body will not get out of survival mode when it's toxic because there's too much inflammation, too much debris in the system. So the first thing I say to my patients is, before we repair you, we have to clean you out. And what do I have to clean out? Your primary immune system, your small intestine. Your 30 feet, 300 square feet surface areas, area which holds 70% of your immune system. So we use herbs from Australia to clean that space out. Only then you can see the back wall that's leaking. And we know that autoimmunity is linked to leaky gut. So once you see the wall, you can fix the wall. So we say this is a strategy. It's a non-negotiable one, but it's a strategy. No vitamins, no supplements, no changing your diet, no going to the gym. Clean your gut first. 7 weeks we do this. Same time we clean the liver, because when the gut's not working, the liver has to do the second job. So we use things like high-dose glutathione, TUDCA, PPC to clean the liver, because the liver will have a big waiting list in front of it causing a typhoon of inflammation. If you imagine the M25 full of traffic, the side roads can't get in. Your brain cannot detoxify through the lymphatic system. Your muscles cannot detoxify. Your joints, brain, Alzheimer's, muscles, fibromyalgia, joints, rheumatoid, gut colitis. Do you think these are conditions or the inability to get rid of toxins? So once we clean the liver and the gut, we do a third cleanse, inflammatory fuel, glycogen. When you are stressed, your body becomes a donut-making factory. You hear these people saying, I don't eat anything, I can't lose weight. No, you're making donuts because cortisol, the fight or flight hormone, has a duty of care to put sugar in your system so you can run from a tiger. There's no tiger to run from, of course. What happens to that sugar? It gets converted to fat. Insulin is a fat-storing hormone. You must remember this.
Yes.
So effectively, what we say to them, well, you're going to be stressed, and I can't tell you to go and chill out and do yoga. It's not going to work. We have to clean your gut, clean your liver, then we have to clean this inflammatory glycogen out. So we fast patients out of that. If you don't put food in the front of your fridge, the body will eat. It'll eat from the sugar ladder, because the brain likes quick energy. Within 3 days, you'll have emptied all the inflammatory fuel. The adrenal gland has no ignition to work with that.
3 days of fasting.
On average, we bespoke fasting for women, but I'm giving you an average. After that, you do 7 or 10 days of 1 meal a day of plant food. Why? Because once you've emptied the sugar larder, you'll empty the second larder where all your disease sits, protein debris. You make 4 million cells every 1 second. The dead cells stay in garbage cans. They don't leave you in every one of your 30 trillion cells. Now, why do they stay there? Not by accident. Your predecessors 1,000 years ago would have no food for 4 days. So the body will go in there, sweep up this dead protein, recycle it into brand new DNA and an energy. And you know what this energy is? ATP. It's the most sophisticated thing in history that you can make the dead live and create ATP energy.
And this is a direct consequence of fasting.
Direct, yeah. So then you empty the protein debris after several days. Then you go to the next fridge, fat. So the body will go around your liver and your kidneys, break down the carbon and hydrogen, and feed you from your own fat. And you know what your brain is made of mostly? Fat. So you'll feed your brain before your body. Your dopamine will regulate. Your cravings will go, whether it's alcohol, smoking, any form of addiction will go because your dopamine's regulated. Most neurodiversity in kids is because they've been feeding sugar to the brain, not fats, you see. So you regulate that, and then the pancreas goes on holiday. The insulin drops, all your inflammatory markers drop, and you start making good decisions because parts of your brain that hold stress start opening up. The default mode network, your prefrontal cortex, your salience pathways, they all start opening up. So you start becoming a wisdom decision maker and not running on the rat race. So you become more energetic, you achieve more with less energy. And so this is the point that you have to do it in order. Now, once we've cleaned out the debris, we then repair you, and only then. And the repair is only 2 things.
Yes.
2 things. Because you live in a modern world, it is your gut. So we give you probiotics, prebiotics, postbiotics, and we give you collagen peptides. He's the plasterer who fills in all the gaps. And the second thing we repair, the only place you can heal properly, sleep. So we give you adaptogenics, ashwagandha, cerephos, melatonin, and magnesium, so you can get into circadian sleep. And when you sleep, the lymphatics discharge from the brain, everything just cleans out. And remember, you've already cleaned out, so the systems become much more powerful. Okay. The other thing we have to do is your body has to talk to itself. If you do not have the highways in your body to talk to itself, none of this works. So simultaneous to the detox, we build your highways. And there are only 6 things we build your highways with. B12, iron, vitamin D hormone, and the sex hormones. These are the pathways which have been stolen in adrenal stress. So we rebuild your pathways, clean the roads, clean the city out, and then you're going to repair. And guess what? What you've been doing for many years that may not have had any benefit, suddenly everything works. People come to me saying, I'm eating 3 meals a day, I'm not putting any weight on. I said, because you're in balance. You're not creating stress sugars. Your body, and he goes, besides, I don't crave alcohol anymore. I don't want to eat this. I don't want to eat that. I said, because you don't need it. You are now intuitively listening. Then, of course, when they have a glass of wine, they can't sleep all night. I said, what happened? He goes, worst night I've ever had. I said, really? Why? They said, couldn't sleep. I'm never going to do that again. I'm so addicted to waking up well. Why? Because the liver has to detoxify the alcohol in sleep, and it creates cortisol. So we cannot work with a human unless their radars are working. And when their radars are working, nothing is forced on them. They just do it because the body's talking to them. Autoimmunity goes. Rheumatoid, lupus, we've seen rashes go, guts working. People naturally choose not to spend their time out late. They love their sleep. They'll go into natural circadian. They spend time with quality people because they want to radiate the right energy. So your human radar will take you to the correct places. And so you'll spend more time in nature because you feel happier. So once we've done the repair, we don't finish there. That's the repair phase. And I'm just talking about 8 weeks, by the way. This has been 8 weeks into the system to get to the repair stage. Then you go into renewal. Now, renewal to me is the most fabulous place. We talked about the epigenetic space where the chef lives. Amino acids in short chains are called peptides. And these peptides go into the different gene pools and feed that gene. So there's where your eye is, it'll go into the eye pool, give it a clean, saying, here's the food, keep making good proteins for your eye. Avoid getting acute macular degeneration, avoid getting cataract. You can feed the brain, you can feed the adrenal gland, the thymus gland, the pineal gland, and it's amino acids. And guess what amino acids are? Food.
Yeah.
Food is the solution to illness, not prescriptions, okay? So by definition, we wouldn't have this discussion 1,000 years ago. You kill an animal, the amino acids were pure. There was no fridges. You ate, and that was it. So by renewing the gene spaces, these individuals are then ready for the higher level of thinking. You, as a parent, will say, you know what? I'm putting my kid through most of this education system just because that's the acceptable thing. I don't want them to get left behind. Your new version would say, well, actually, what is the education system going to give them anymore? Because AI is going to take over all the intelligence. So how am I going to make my son creative or daughter creative so they can adapt to any environment in the world? Do you see? So you'd think, I'm thinking that higher level of wisdom now, rather than putting them in a box, because the box is broken anyway, right?
Yes.
Now, the point is, the lack of confidence in a parent is kind of, they might leave behind, not thinking they're going to be 10 steps ahead of the game here, That is the difference of wisdom. That is the wisdom of capacity. They'll be able to sense your energy. They will draw on it. They'll become more confident children, rather than I'm just being just because of the school I'm going to, or what uniform I'm wearing, or what after-school club I go to. And then they will remain in ATP energy, because you can throw anything at them, they'll still be there, rather than cortisol energy. Do you see?
Yes.
And so what I feel is that the human form is reactive in Homo sapien world. We're Homo sapiens. There's a process called sapience, where your increased awareness of your brain makes you make better decisions, experience, intelligence, algorithms in your head that make the right decision. Empathy comes into it. So you do not make decisions based on just linear intelligence, which is actually now being taken over by machine. So where does that leave the human form? So sapience is the bridge to take you to the next level of human evolution. And do you know what that's called? Homo luminous, the enlightened brain. So when the brain is enlightened and the body is in balance, miracles happen. Manifestation happens. You are able to have acute awareness of what you want, and you make it happen, you see. And people think these are exceptional. Every human has the capability, but they're so busy being busy, and the body's so busy being inflamed, that they're constantly in survival mode. So they'll never, on Maslow's hierarchy, get higher. When you have a 2-bedroom, you want a 3-bedroom, then a 4-bedroom, then a 7. You'll still haven't moved on the foundation of shelter. Do you see? Yeah. In real Maslow's, 3 is enough. Let's move on to the higher conscious thinking now.
Exactly.
Let's move to the next. We don't shift because we're constantly still in, even the billionaires are still in survival mode. And then they shift gears. So you have to redefine success if you're going to become Homo luminous.
Yes.
And once you do, the one thing that drops in your system is called ego, right? And when ego drops,
hard to let go of that.
It is in your current state because you're in survival mode. How can you get rid of it when you're in survival mode? You've got to shift gears. So what I feel is the strategy is fix the physical, because we're primordially physical, and then open up the next. So we called it the next stage after renewal. We call it reframe. And what reframe is, okay.
Is this part of the art program?
Yes, the 10 art. Okay. We've now got, it was 8, now it's 10. Yes. So reframe is, right, where are you in your journey? Where are you in context of where your purpose is? We don't
this
ask
is mental work now, right?
Not even, no. But you can't differentiate the two. The two are together. So they will say, right, I want to be the best CEO, this. And what is it that's going to make your decisions flow very quickly? Human understanding. Looking at a space and seeing where they are even before they open their mouth. Them, you coming in and giving an air of confidence that they just calm down. So, or do you want to go in with a feeling of fear that they can pick up on, just like children pick up on fear? So then they start doing things like holotropic breath work. They start doing
holotropic breath work.
So this is the type of breathing that brings the elixir of life in you opens up your pineal gland and enables the stock fibers that make you think in a certain way, what I call your identity, to change. You stop ruminating about things that happened, and you change your context and reframe everything again.
So you're telling me that breath work can physically manifest in the body?
Massively. That, then you have things like hormetic stress, like cryo or infrared light therapy, or earthing or grounding, or being in nature. Nature you cannot get rid of. It has to be part of it all. So once you get into that, but when the body's full, it grows from that position. From an empty place, you can't. Then we talk about the next stage, the sixth R, rewire. That's when we do the brain activity. Recondition your brain. Wake up in the morning, work out the strategy of gratitude, get into that positive framework, and ultimately look at reorganizing all the fears and traumas in your brain in a different way. And you'll find that everything just walks. And guess what? Balance remains in the body, because the CEO of your body is your brain now. So if this guy's corrected, this guy stands a chance. But you have to fix this to a certain level before this guy lets go, because it keeps looking down and saying, don't believe you. Now it says, I do believe you.
Yes.
Then after rewire, we call it realign. That's when we start looking at pilgrimages. We look at, we've partnered up in multiple retreats around the world where people can go for 3 days barefoot, spending time in nature, in silence, in emptiness, so they can exit. We've done work with dark retreats even. We put people in bunkers without light for 3 to 5 days so that they can actually go inwards and open up all those channels that are blocked.
How would I benefit from this?
So when you go in, you mean like, for example, a dark retreat?
Darkness, yeah.
So when you have
sensory
darkness,
deprivation.
your 5 receptors, 5 senses are not coming in. No sound, no light, no vision, none of these things. You have 30 other senses in the back office. They don't have a chance when this guy is busy. So when you close this, your pineal gland vibrates. It releases DMT. And then you go backwards and start sorting out layers of things that are determining your identity today. But you've had no chance to reflect on them, you see? So that's how these things work. Holidays now should be about emptying out. But what do? We keep as busy in our holiday as we do in our working life. Because we don't want to miss out. Because you want to come back and tell everyone everything you've done. No, you sit in a room,
on that safari and did this and did that.
Sit in a room and do nothing. Because you're doing enough already. So that's the rewiring. And then the realignment. And then we do pilgrimage. So we know that when you walk with a stick, the vibration of the stick goes around your vertebral column and increases a hormone called calcitonin, which is your immune system. The commonest cause of breast cancer today is sitting. You know this. 15 hours of sitting, you don't vibrate. And if you look at all indigenous wisdom, they dance by jumping.
True.
They resonate with voices. And so, you cannot get away from nature. Tara Schwartz was just talking about, if you smell 7 different senses a day, you reduce your chances of cognitive decline.
Is that true?
Yeah. So there's all these things that are going on in the world that have been going on for thousands of years. So in order for us to move forwards, we have to look backwards. Okay. So then what do you do after Realign? Then a lot of these people are acting like they're 30 at the age of 70. They're opening this, they're helping this, and they're getting involved in more what I call non-transactional work. What I mean by that is they'll go and help people without any gain. We know that is also the biggest part of longevity, i.e. giving without an expectation.
Yeah, charity work.
Some of the big books in the world have said, you have a right to serve, but you don't have a right to the fruits. You see? So, but where do we live? We live in a profit margin organization, i.e. you put something in, you get something bigger back. It's total opposite of what humans should be like.
Yes,
right?
Yeah.
Profiteering is not humanization, unless it's the other form of profiteering, the spelling P-R-O-P-H-E-T. Do you see what I mean?
Yes,
where you're looking at a higher value system. And that can only be given through giving. And we know that these people sleep like babies. They don't have any tension or stress.
I would love that.
And that's why communities are growing. So communities comes under the realignment as well. And then we have the remakeover. So we do bioregenerative aesthetics, peptides, exosomes, carboxytherapy. Again, these people have such inner confidence. They want to look good. Much better than traditionally going to an aesthetic surgeon to look good on the outside to make up for an inner emptiness. Do you see this is different?
ATP, just circling back to it quickly, for those who don't want to do fasting for days or extreme biohacking, are there any gentler ways to activate ATP?
Yeah, so ATP can be activated by ensuring that energy is not going in the right place. So cleaning your gut out, cleaning your liver out, detoxifying means that the ATP that's been currently utilized doing a job it shouldn't is available for you. So everything I've talked about enhances ATP. Every one of them, they're just layers of
That's
capability.
amazing. Yeah.
So, energy preservation is the secret to longevity. The head office triaging it to ATP, not cortisol. The other thing is when you become more abundant in your inner energy, you can actually draw energy from the outside world. So
How is
holotropic
that?
breath work, oxygen,
Okay.
infrared light, morning and evening light, it's free. Earthing, these are all sources of energy.
Yeah. You mentioned the gut a number of times. Let's say I have a compromised gut microbiome. How could I repair this?
You can't repair it without cleaning it. So you have to use these herbs to clean. Once you've cleaned
Herbal
out,
treatment
yes,
first.
herbs, to clean out. Once you've cleaned, then of course the ecosystem, the gardener can fix it. Pre-pro postbiotics can be used. Timing. Then how do you maintain it is more important. Well, basically avoid sugar as much as you can. Avoid ultra-processed foods as much as you can. Eat whole food, but less of it. And that's it. We don't need to have 3 meals a day.
So this is the longevity diet that you
it's
would
a normal
promote.
diet. And don't get too het up about this many calories or this much protein. The old days people just used to cook with their hands and you ate. You have to be intuitive and not medicalize humanization. Do you see? It's only when we start putting things in people's heads that they start getting confused. It's great for the commercial market, but you don't need it.
Yeah, we do need it. You also talked briefly about hormones. Hormones start shifting well before menopause and andropause. Do you recommend testing hormones for people in their 30s and 40s?
Yeah, so hormonal decline is in context of how busy you are. You can drop hormones in your teens if you're super stressed because the adrenal gland can steal them. We mentioned progesterone, DHEA. But usually there's a 1% decrease in your hormones after the age of 30 every year. And these are your highways. So people wait till they get menopause or andropause. They shouldn't. They should check and see where their hormones are. And they're dynamic. So what a hormone is your highway. So if you fix the highway and everything's working, the adrenal gland will steal less and you'll switch yourself back on again. So they're dynamic. It doesn't mean going on more and more sometimes. It means going on some to get things working and then dropping them. So hormones are super important because they are the conductor to the symphony of your genes. They're not just about andropause, menopause. And cancers and things are about imbalance, not hormones themselves.
Yeah.
So, an imbalance occurs predominantly due to stress.
Stress again.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. In your clinic, you do bioidentical hormone
yes.
therapy. Is that different than the good old NHS?
Yeah, so the NHS
HRT?
would do a prescriptive, and they have set standard numbers they give you. With Bioidentical, we look at your hormones in context of your world, and I would then give you the exact dose to get you in the middle lane. So we're not going extreme. What gets you in the middle lane is not the same as somebody else in the same room. Do you see?
You mean the NHS has like one
Yeah.
fits
1 or 2
all?
or 3 or 4, yes. Whereas we can literally make 0.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, literally to anything. Because we use Bioidentical, i.e. the same as what your body's making, but also we use a compound pharmacy to say this is the exact dose for you. Compounding. They make the drug. So they actually physically make it at that dose.
For me?
Yes,
just for me?
Just for you. So it cannot be
Based
sold
on
to anybody.
my blood work and...
Yes.
Okay.
And we don't just do progesterone and estrogen. We do the 2 different types of estrogen. We also do pregnenolone, another mother hormone, DHEA, testosterone.
Testosterone for men and women.
Yes, and melatonin also. These are all hormones. Vitamin D is a hormone.
Yes.
So, you have to realize that, if you are so unique, your signature is not the same in any other human. And your environment is not the same as any other human. So how can we make decisions on the whole human race based on bringing 100 people off the street? It's impossible.
Yeah.
So that is how convention has been built.
Yeah, that's the capacity of the NHS. That's how they know
and
things.
I think
the only variations that, because I started my HRT journey just last week, the only variation, actually not the only variation, the only path is to start on estrogen 25 mcg.
Yes. And then 50 or 75.
Then 50 if you need, then 70 if you need, or that's it.
Yeah, but they're looking at, you see, for me, it's about why is it down? If we fix your adrenal stress, you won't steal. So you may not need one hormone if we fix the other bit of the problem. So we don't just look at giving, we look at restoring.
So you sometimes supplement or medicate with estrogen, but not progesterone, for example?
Yes, variations. And every 10 patients will come out with 10 different treatment plans. And some of them will not even be hormones, they'll be diet. So the beauty of precision medicine is when you have an hour and a half with a patient, you literally connect with them at a level where you can put all the pieces together.
Tell us the most misunderstood aspects of aging.
I think the biggest myth is that you can solve this problem from the outside. You cannot. you have to fix your inside.
Feed the cell and protect the cell.
Yes. So we have to go back to fundamental basics. There's no amount of drips or high-end things you can do. You're putting a elastoplast over the problem. You've got to go back to fundamentals of cleaning your body out, then going into the phase of recovery and repair. And what we're very good at, not good at, is that bit. We just want a quick fix. So to me, longevity also has to be redefined. Is it really about how many more years? I don't think so. For me, redefining longevity is being the best version of yourself now, right in this minute, right in this day. And if you focus on being the best version, when you wake up and you're saying, what is going to make me the best version of today? Okay, you've got school runs, you've got this, you've got that. So what? That stuff. What is it that I can do in those magic minutes that can optimize me? Maybe I could do 5 squats instead of having a cup of coffee. Maybe I can lie down and do 5 sets of box breath work. Maybe I can go and spend 3 minutes in the park. Set your agenda to be the best person today, and tomorrow will look after itself. In the same ways, feed the cell and protect the cell, and the organ will look after itself. Let's not get up on years. And I did a conference this weekend, and I had the Brian Johnson, who is trying to preserve his cells with a view to prolonging them for the future. And then I had a caveman underneath with a fireplace. He's also trying to preserve himself and prolong them, but just for tonight.
But just for tonight,
Because in the mind, who is more fulfilled? Ask yourself that question. The man who's worried about how he's going to take his 1,000 supplements, or the guy says, there's no rain, I've got fire, I'm warm, I can sleep tonight like a baby. You tell me which
Probably
one.
because he's not pursuing. He's not achieving. He's not
simple.
running after things.
So you don't have to stop doing your doing, but just change your mindset to one that make the best of it. That you have this like just become the optimal version of yourself.
Yeah, and you subtly refer to the difference between lifespan and health span. What is the difference between them?
Well, life is independence, pursuit of fulfillment, and purpose. Added years is just being on Earth, existing. This is why a lot of people are signing all this DNR forms saying, please don't resuscitate me. They're sitting in care homes, nursing homes, hospitals. That is not life, that's existence.
You refer to ancient wisdom when you talked about fasting and being in nature. Of course, you integrate this with your clinical science in the lab. When you integrate ancient wisdom, is it only philosophical, or does that wisdom have empirical, measurable health benefits?
So you can do biofield testing, you can do many tests now, but we do. So if we want to open up your prefrontal cortex, we need nootropics. If we want to look at your hippocampus and your memory, there's certain types of cognitive therapy you can do. Mm-hmm. If you want to open up certain pathways, through a hormone or a chemical called BDNF, you can do reverse transmagnetic stimulation now. There's many things, modalities that exist. For me, it's about explaining to the patient why we're doing what we're doing. Do you want to do it this way, or do you want to go back and do it your own way? Because there's no wrong answer. So the answer is these modalities are all scientific based. And now, so the next decade will belong to the neuroscientists, because they will be able to tap into those 30 senses and operate them at a functional level, at a higher level, which means the rest just happens.
What are nootropics?
Nootropics are basically brain food. Things that feed the brain. So the good fats, the blended 369 omegas, B12, the B vitamins, the dopamine stabilizers. These are all nootropics. Caffeine's a nootropic.
Is it?
Ashwagandha is a nootropic. They're all ways of making the brain balanced so it doesn't go to the wrong energy.
The brain. You talked about, I believe you have a book about the brain.
Yes, I have about 22 books, but one of them is about neuroscience in the brain.
Yes, 22 I read. Oh, they increased. Amazingly, that's a massive undertaking, 22 books, and that's pre-AI, which means that you actually wrote the books yourself.
Well, we're still writing more now. So we're coming up now looking at, we're going to call it Wild Wisdom Works. So we're looking at the narratives of evolution and linking it to the science now. So people can say, this is what Aristotle did, and now it's the science behind why it worked. This is what Buddha did. This is the science behind it work. Because people need to see the interconnection for them to understand that they did it because they knew it was right. We now can prove that they were correct.
These two seemingly different routes, the medicine-based treatments and the traditional ancient wisdom, do they ever give you conflicting biomarkers or treatment path? And if so, how do you reconcile this?
So for me, the beauty of being an integrated doctor is I use the tools available at the right time. If today you got run over by a bus and broke a leg, I wouldn't say see a shaman. I would say go to A&E. Do you see?
Of course.
Get it fixed. And then go and see the shaman afterwards to find out why you got run over by a bus. What I feel is that you should look at all the tools, and why there's never conflict is because the health journey is from going from the sort of the acute medicine, which we can manage, and then you go into rehab, high dependency, then rehab, then it's normalization. And as that comes, that's when the other approaches come in. Whereas what conventional does is keep you there all the time. So you'll never get off your blood pressure tablets, but you need them to stabilize. Then you think, okay, let's get the gut done, liver detox, adrenal stress, and then wean this off and put nature back in. So there cannot be conflict.
You also define real longevity medicine. I think I pinched this from your website as, and I quote, repairing the cell, supporting regeneration and evolving identity. This sounds different than the typical mainstream preventative care, right?
Very much so.
Yeah. How do I repair or renew my cells out of clinic? Do it independently?
So the process which we described, the clean out,
it's healthy food.
Exactly. So, but the sort of detoxification bit, then the repair. This is exactly what this will do to you.
Okay. Yeah. How about evolving identity? Will I think or behave differently when I optimize my body?
Without a doubt, because the back office has got so many television sets open at the moment. If you knock them out, you'll be able to focus more. You'll be more present. When you're talking, you will not be thinking 10 other things you should be doing, but you'll be present. So the answer is your psychological evolution and identity naturally will change anyway.
Yeah, I would love to get rid of the clutter in my brain.
To get rid of the clutter, you have to get rid of the clutter in your body first, which is feeding that.
I promise you I'm doing everything right. Well, I'm sure you hear that a lot.
But you would need to just reframe it, because the issue is more how you've defined your success. And that's going to be something that does require a lot of reflection and a lot of bravery to some extent.
Yeah.
But everyone will get there anyway at their own time, but it will happen. The more you spend time with nature, the more you look at things differently, the easier it becomes.
Okay. How often do you spend time in nature?
Every day.
Every day? Where do you go?
Day. Well, I have a park opposite my practice.
Okay.
So I try and get there once for at least 5 or 6 minutes every hour, which is not impossible.
Wow. Oh, that's brilliant.
Yeah, because it's right opposite. And I know the magic minutes, I call them. You can just do it, but you've got to focus. And then you come back refreshed.
Yeah, and you must get the most brilliant ideas and concepts while seemingly doing nothing in nature.
Totally. Yeah. It's a control or delete and come back and refresh. You never get tired either.
Yeah.
You can carry on forever.
This is a big mismatch in our lives because, as you rightly mentioned, our genes pool have evolved over years and years and years in nature.
And this is so new and it's changing so quick. In the
250 years of industrialization.
Look at what's happened in just 5 years.
Yeah.
It's too quick for ourselves to even consider it. That's why the next generation have to be different.
Yes.
Because all the conventional things are breaking down in front of our eyes.
What about the role of genetics? What would a genetic test tell you about the potential of longevity?
Yeah. Where to focus your attention. So if you know that there may be an ApoE or a dementia gene, or you're more prone to insulin resistance, it will allow you to home in, but it doesn't take away from the whole process. Do you see?
Can genetic therapies reverse aging?
Well, the technology certainly can, yes. Very expensive, but like most things, if the environment around that doesn't change, it's going to go back to native, right? So you can't just put one change in. But it's a bit like if you have a Ferrari and it's a puncture, you put a new tire. But if that car has been abused in the sense that the choke is not working, the brakes are not working, the outcome is not going to be great.
No.
You see? So this is the problem. We mustn't get too excited by the ego of technology and still think about the fact that there's a duty of care to the human being.
What daily habits do you find most vital for longevity?
For me, control or delete on the brain. When you're really busy, get 5 minutes of nature in your blood, box breathing, walking, earthing. That to me is the biggest. Second thing is sleep well. Protect your sleep and the process before you sleep so you can protect your sleep. And thirdly, eat less but well. So 1 or 2 meals a day is enough, and just keep it fresh and lean and allow your body to detoxify itself.
Yeah.
Those are the key things. Nothing special.
Yeah, I remember I used to do 3-day water fast a lot, like for a year ago, but this year I decided that it's time to build muscles, and so I went. I no longer do it just because I need the protein.
Yes.
But I remember once when I said to one of my friends, she's a GP, that I do 3-day waterfall, and the shock on her face. This is hardly conventional medicine.
Totally, but it's been happening for centuries because that's what we've been.
Dr. Ash, we conclude our episodes with visionary, moral, and ethical questions, the tough ones. Now, in terms of regulations and safety, let's say, for example, psychedelic assisted therapy, how do you ensure that it's done ethically and safely, and at the same time you push boundaries?
So again, we're going at it thinking immediately safety. What is psychedelic assisted therapy? Psychedelic assisted therapy is about vibrating your pineal gland to release a hormone called DMT so we can be more reflective. It can happen through breath work. It doesn't have to happen through taking mushrooms or ketamine. So breathwork is psychedelic therapy. So for me, what we must do is try and enable the human being, saying that all the tools they have is around them. They just got to learn how to use them. So guided, what they call conscious connected breathing, can have psychedelic effects. We now being in dark retreats creates psychedelic effects. So it's not always about drugs. But if we cannot get access to these support services or cannot utilize them, then what we must do is look at going to people who know what they're doing, why you're doing it, enabling people to understand that these aren't silver bullets. These are just simply ways of trying to open up the brain so it can start decluttering things in a safe environment. So I think more data is needed, more community data is needed. The evidence has to be presented, and also the safety elements of it. If I was ever to have ketamine, it would be with an anaesthetist to make sure that I'm safe in a protected environment. I would definitely want a psychologist with me so that when I land out of the psychedelic, they help me interpret what has happened. So I need to get value out of this, and I need to think about why I'm doing it. And if I'm stuck with antidepressants that don't work, or I've tried many other things that are just stuck, those are the sort of reasons why they are, because the brain won't let go. And that's where I think psychedelic-assisted therapy would be very good. It's happened for thousands of years. Ayahuasca, Cambo, all of these traditions are psychedelic-assisted therapies.
Okay. How do they work on the brain? Do they rewire the brain?
Very good question. So they work in different elements of the brain, but predominantly it's about a release of DMT, from the pineal gland, so that the brain is able to go into the subconscious mind, the mind you cannot see, and bring it out to the surface to you.
So I get access to my subconscious.
Access, yes, to things that may have happened in childhood or traumas that may have happened that you've suitcased and bottled up.
Is this useful?
Very useful, because all of us carry trauma in some form or another. And so when people are stuck, you've got to ask yourself, how they're behaving today could have been expressed due to what has happened before, which has not surfaced.
And ideally, when I understand how and why, I'm able to face or address.
Yes, and that's when the support comes in. Then you can say, okay, I now accept this is the issue. Let me work through it.
Okay, what is the process? So I go to your clinic and there is a therapy session kind of thing.
Yes,
I consume the stuff.
Yes. It's and then under a specialist, and then there's what they call a landing phase where you express what has happened to you.
In my brain, what I was thinking.
Yes, and then they will help put the sort of thinking about what has been said and interpret it for you. But in most cases, most people interpret it themselves.
Oh, do they?
Yeah.
Okay. You mentioned, I think you were talking about the mind-body connection kind of thing. And you said that 97% of our behavior is ruled by the subconscious.
Yes.
While the rest, which is a flimsy 2 or 3, is ruled by the
conscious mind. Yes. So if we can open up our consciousness, to expand our consciousness, i.e. what we're aware of, you see, you'll become a much more healthy being, because you're not going to be hiding trauma. You're going to be addressing it.
We know that change creeps very, very slowly in the NHS. If you could look at the NHS sympathetically and make changes lovingly, what would you change?
So I think a lot of people are going around in conveyor belts. They get either deferred to someone else when they get seen a doctor, they get referred to a hospital when there's a waiting list a year, or essentially they get sort of referred, deferred, or investigated. You just do lots of tests because you don't know what's going on. So these people are just stuck in systems and you never see the same doctor. My experience is that if they could see one doctor for 1 hour just to lay the landscape of their lives out with some simple testing, I have a strong feeling that collaboration between the patient and doctor can lead to outcomes and agency that the patient can be given to go back and sort things out. So my 10-hour plan, for example, can be explained in an hour. It gives agency back to the individual. They can go back and through a health coach in the community, carry this through. I think you could wipe out 70% of the problems overnight, and you would have a happy workforce, you'd have a happy patient, and you'll have a system that decompresses in costs massively.
And this is just this first stage is through GPs, the front line.
I think the GP is the best place to do it because they have a knowledge of the whole human more than perhaps a specialist does.
Yes. What role will AI, big data, diagnostics, and precision medicine play in longevity medicine in the next 10, 20 years?
I think one of the big things is you can get evidence quickly about what you're doing. That's one of the big benefits of AI and meta-analysis. The other thing is it will buy bureaucratic time for doctors, writing letters and sorting out results. And AI can be very clever at dealing with bureaucracy, which I feel most GP work, 70% is bureaucracy. So if you can say, okay, if I don't have to do 70%, then rather than take time off and play golf, I can give my patients 30 or 40 minutes. So the logic is AI should be able to enable what I just talked about.
You said that AI should be a co-pilot
Yes.
that enhances our understanding instead of
You've got to remember AI is
intuition.
intelligence, and wisdom is beyond intelligence. Wisdom is context, empathy, experience, all of those four factors. So use the intelligence, but don't be directed and dictated entirely by that.
Yeah, but what are the risks if we get this wrong?
There's no risk. Look at where we are today.
Okay.
Overspent, underperforming, and unhappy.
Yeah, very true. Ash, some of the therapies that you conduct in your clinic, peptides, psychedelics, IV, nutrient therapy, extending fasting, these are not standard medical practices.
No, they are standard if you look at the human wellness in context of 5 million years.
Yes.
Not standard if you're looking at it in the last 100 years.
But do you face any regulatory pushback?
No, because if you look at autophagy, there's so many papers written on it. Professor Usumi's got a Nobel Prize on this on it. A lot of people,
what is autophagy?
Autophagy is fasting.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's that ability to go to that extended fast to clean out all that debris.
Mainstream medicine see these therapies still as a little bit of French or woo-woo. How do you respond to critics when they say that there isn't sufficient evidence behind this?
If our outcome is for the patient to be better, and on less prescribed medication, then the best evidence I feel is our patients speaking and telling people that. And we have that all the time.
Their health.
Yeah, all the
and
time.
how they feel. That's
Only one
brilliant.
yesterday saying, psychiatrist said, you need to be on this antidepressant forever because that's what the evidence says. And the patient said, but I've been weaned off it and I'm feeling well. Yes, but no. If I'm telling you I'm feeling better and I'm well without it, and it's been 6 months.
Yes.
And there was no argument. But that's what my book says. Do you see?
Yeah.
Rather than common sense.
Absolutely. I don't take any medications for my conditions and diseases.
So patient choice is paramount. And our job is to give them the choices and then they make their decision.
Yes. And how do you respond to concerns about dramatically extending lifespan? Like people talk about overpopulation.
If you're eating less, if you're less materialistic, there's plenty of abundance for people to live longer.
You have reviewed thousands and thousands of research papers to reach the conclusions that you have shared with us today. What is exactly the disconnect between the evidence that you have found and the mainstream disapproval?
Numbers. With randomized controlled trials, there's big numbers, and they are the gold standard. So if you're using randomized controlled trials as the gold standard of research, a lot of these smaller trials won't fit. Doesn't mean the evidence is not great. It just means they won't fit. So that's where the biggest dilemma is. And randomized controlled trials neutralize everything around that relationship. They look at one relationship. And as we said, you're 30 trillion cells talking to each other. So logic says longevity and randomized controlled trials don't make sense.
Yes.
Wisdom is everything. Intelligence is just linear. Randomized controlled trials is intelligence. Wisdom is beyond intelligence.
What needs to change in terms of policy, for example, for longevity medicine to be mainstream?
I think, first of all, we've got to be careful the longevity matrix doesn't get complicated. So when people are doing things, they need to know why they're doing them and the timing. So, jumping from one NAD to this to that doesn't work, right? So a strategy is important. And I think the biggest thing, this thing about longevity is it shouldn't be a medical narrative. It should be your narrative. You should own longevity, not the doctors. Yeah. So for me, the strategy should be to disempower the profession and empower humans.
And looking ahead, what do you think will be the next big innovation in human optimization?
I think understanding the brain.
Understanding the brain.
Yes, totally. And all those networks that control what your body does.
Yeah. Do you have recommendations of brain food for us?
So
what
definitely
should be consumed?
omega-369, the blended oils, vitamin D, hormone, and the B vitamins definitely would be the three that I would go with.
Okay. Is there a way to bring brain power to a different capacity?
Totally, completely. And take it out of the left-sided intelligence zone to the right-sided massive intuitive zone.
Okay. Yeah. Have you ever found it tempting to experiment with patients, like in the gray area, not morally, but legally?
Never, because the point is we're only able to do good for them. So it's never, experiments mean giving them drugs, pharmaceutical industries. If we're working with what is already in nature or what your body's producing, it's not an experiment. It's a reinforcement.
Yes. You mentioned nutrient dripping. Is this IV?
Yes.
Kind of thing?
Yes.
Okay. What is the distinction? Can't I just consume supplements orally?
You could, but if you were at the beginning stage where your gut was broken or your liver was toxic, first of all, could it get in? Maybe not. Then does it have to bypass the liver? Maybe not. So at the early stages when people are struggling, IV is a good way of getting 100% bioavailability.
Yeah, and this is to feed the cells, not the stomach.
Exactly.
Kind of thing.
Yes.
Okay. Dr. Ash Kapoor, today's forward-thinking conversation was a tiny masterclass in how science, clinical wisdom, and holistic approaches can all converge to redefine what modern healthcare could look like, shifting the focus from chasing symptoms to cellular healing. Challenges us all to think differently about not only about aging, but about living with strength and purpose. Today reminded us that health is not the absence of disease, but a dynamic process that can be optimized. And you taught us how to thrive and not just survive. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you. And thank you for inviting me today.